No, no worries.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. I'm excited today. We have another ARA, Ask Rawan About Anything. And Rawan brought a guest that's going to illuminate and expand on what Rawan's going to talk to you about. No more secrets about scholarships. So let's get started. We want to go through some slides with you, as you know. And Rawan, as I recall, I'm going to have to do the changing of the slides, right? Probably.
I think I'm not sure I have control, Sue. So yeah, we
Okay. All
can.
right. Well, let's get started then. All right, Rawan, on to you.
All right. Good morning, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for being here. I believe this is our 6th or 7th live. As of today, I nearly have 40,000 followers on LinkedIn, so that's a lot of us here. And I always find it nice to dedicate time once a month with Sue, and today we have a very special guest to talk to you about scholarships. Since it's scholarship season, a lot of people are applying for funding. A lot of people are trying to advance their credentials by getting a bachelor's or a master's or even a PhD. So now is the time to be looking for those opportunities, and that's why today we're doing this live. Um, the picture you see on the screen is a picture I took during my time in the UK studying in Swansea University. I was on a scholarship. I was on a scholarship as well. It wasn't one of the famous scholarships. It was called the Era Francis Davis Scholarship. And this is something that I want to talk to you about today. A lot of people think about the famous scholarships all the time, but I also want you to think of scratching beneath the surface, digging deep, looking for opportunities that not everyone is looking for. Because if you're always applying for the competitive scholarships, it may be hard to get one. So we're going to be talking about generic tips and generic techniques to get a scholarship. I don't want to really call it secrets today because they're not secrets as such. Some of this information may be obvious to some of you, it may not be obvious to others. If you do have other tips in the chat, or if you have gotten a scholarship, please feel free to share them as well in the comments, in the chat. Don't hold back your knowledge. I always say there's enough stars in the sky for everyone. I sincerely believe it. So don't hold back your knowledge. Share it with others, and you will see that God is making things easier for you as well. So we'll start the show. So you can go to the next slide. So we'll do some do's and don'ts, but before that, we'll do introductions. So over to you, Sue, for your introduction.
All right. Many of you know me. I'm the mentor with pom poms. Oh, I put a GIF in and it's not GIFing on StreamYard. So here's the real pom poms that I use. My fun fact, I changed it out to show you that I'm finally able to meet some of you actually in person. So I have been fortunate to go from Nepal all the way to the west coast of the United States, and north and south, and meet 4 or 5 already different mentees and course learners that I've had. I will let you know where I'm traveling. So if you're in that region, let me know and we'll figure out a meetup. All right, on to you, Rowan.
All right. So good morning, good afternoon, everybody. If you're following me on LinkedIn, my name is Rawan. I'm a development professional. I'm currently based in Namibia. I work with the World Food Program. I've been here for about a year and a half. For the past few years, I've been in sub-Saharan Africa, over Senegal, Malawi, Zambia, and I focus on poverty reduction, but I'm very passionate about youth employment. So I hope sooner rather than later it becomes my full-time profession, and I can make a difference in the world for myself and for all of you as well who are looking for jobs, especially at the early stages of their career. I have a master's degree in public health. I got it through a scholarship, as I said, in Swansea University. And a fun fact is I really like hats. I don't know how this obsession started. I like fashion in general. Many people who have met me in person know this as well. I love to shop. I like styling. So maybe in the next life, if I don't do youth employment advocacy, I think I want to be a stylist. So the next slide, Sue. So there's a few scholarships that I've gotten since we're talking about scholarships today. The main one is the one for my master's degree, but also a lot of people, when they think about scholarships, they think about like massive scholarships or master's scholarships or PhD scholarships, but there's also small scholarships that you can get here and there, like fellowships or training programs that can help build your CV so that you can get a big scholarship like an academic scholarship. So don't underestimate the small opportunities, the ones that are for a few days or a few weeks or a summer exchange program. Don't underestimate these as well, because they can really, really pave your road for a much bigger opportunity. Next slide, Sue. So if you're following me on LinkedIn, you might already know that I've written a book about youth employment called No More Job Secrets. I hope you've read it. If not, please do read it. In the book, I don't heavily focus on scholarships, but if you do want, there's a section where I talk about what kind of degree you need for a certain international job. For most international jobs, the great majority, there's a very, very, very few opportunities where you don't need a master's scholarship for an international career. But if you want to work in an NGO internationally, or you want to work in the UN internationally as an international professional, not a national officer. As a national officer, there are many opportunities where you don't need a master's degree. If you want to work internationally, most of the opportunities, I would say, need a master's degree. So to get a master's degree in a university abroad or in an expensive university, if you can't afford it, you will most likely need a scholarship, and that's what we're talking about today. Next slide, Sue. Okay, so this is just a brief outline of my book. I'm not going to go through that in detail. If you have any questions, you can get in touch on LinkedIn, or we can have another chat about it. But today, I'm assuming that lots of our audience will be early career professionals or people who are still looking to get their master's degree. So you can say hi in the chat, say where you are, and maybe your dream scholarship. So for example, you could say my dream scholarship is to study, let's say at Harvard or MIT, and I want to do a major in art history, something like that. Be as specific as possible. I believe in manifestation, the law of the universe listening to you. So make it your reality. Type it in the chat to make it real for yourself, and we will project the comments. So we have a very, very, very special guest of honor today. He will introduce himself, but he's gotten many, many scholarships, and he will be here today to answer your questions. He does have to leave a bit early, so type your questions sooner rather than later to make the most out of his expertise and his very special presence. Over to you, Ahmed.
Hello, good morning, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much, Ron, for this amazing introduction. Thank you, Sue, for inviting me as well. Nice to meet you all, let's say. My name is Ahmed Al-Buqsumati. Whoever knows me on Facebook, my name is quite different. It's Ahmed Naguib, which is, yeah, it's a kind of, I have 7 names, so it's a kind of fun fact. So I graduated from medical school nearly 10 years ago, which seems to be, I'm starting to get quite old. So I graduated 10 years ago from medical school, and then worked directly with a kind of luck, and I can talk about it later, with the UNHCR directly after graduating in UN Health Program for Refugees. I spent there 2.5 years almost. I traveled in a kind of some emergency countries during that time, and then I got achieving a scholarship. I studied my Master of Public Health at Imperial College London. After that, I directly started to work again with the UN, but with WHO. So I have been ever since with WHO as a consultant in quality and patient safety, mainly around health system development in emergency countries and humanitarian settings. Other than that, at the moment, I'm holding, let's say, 3 positions at the moment. So I'm doing my clinical GP training in the UK, in Cambridge, and I'm doing academic clinical fellowship for primary care research at Cambridge University, and I'm teaching as part of the Master in Health Policy at Imperial College London. In terms of scholarships, so I mentioned here I got overall what I can count more than 16 scholarships so far. As Rawan mentioned, not all of them masters and PhD, otherwise like I'll be, oh wow, I get 16 masters. But it includes some scholarships, a kind of short and small scholarship from some universities and some organizations that lasted maybe 1-2 weeks or even a month, but it can literally change my life, and it's already changed my life. So maybe the main focus I will reflect later on in some of your question about mainly the scholarship at Imperial College London from Achieving. One scholarship I really like, and it had some lessons for myself, just to believe in myself more than anything else. I got from Harvard University. I can talk about it as well, and some other smaller scholarships where I try to get network and navigate through them to get my next step in terms of, okay, where I will be, where are the next steps for the scholarship. So it's always a kind of something to say that one scholarship is always leading to another. It will be quite surprising for all of you if you talk to anyone. It's almost very rare, and personally I find it very rare to find a person who got only one scholarship. It's very, very rare. If you got one scholarship, you'll get the second, third, fourth, and fifth. It's a kind of addiction. So and one fun fact, I'm quite talkative, so try to stop me. One one fun fact about myself: I have never traveled any country for fun. So I traveled so far, I think, to 32 countries, and I have never traveled for fun, in like just a trip for fun. 32 countries I traveled only for scholarships, kind of. So it was all funded. So again, if you are just interested to go around the world for free, so I would advise just apply for scholarships.
I wasn't expecting him to say that. No, no, the donors are going to start taking away the funding if they hear that. But I mean, a lot of people as well, traveling is expensive. So it is one of the perks maybe of getting a scholarship. That's not the main goal, of course. Your goal should be beyond that. And if you know Ahmed or you're following him, you will know that his goal is way beyond that. But it's a perk. When you travel, you get to meet others. When you meet somebody, it opens one door after the other after the other. So more of an addiction, it becomes sort of like it's like a cascading domino effect of success. So yeah, there are many advantages to getting a scholarship. This is just one of them, and 32 countries is a lot. But yeah, we can get started about secrets to getting a scholarship. Ahmed and Sue, feel free to interrupt. I listed some of the secrets, I would say, or tips that I think are pretty generic and can help many others to get their first scholarship, I would say. So there are some strategies. One of them I would say is start early. So I remember once when I was speaking to Ahmed a few years ago, he told me that when he applied for the Chevening scholarship, he had been thinking about it or preparing for it, not necessarily writing the application, but networking, reading about the scholarship for years before that. So it doesn't necessarily have to be you sitting on your laptop, but if you start early, accumulating that experience, building that network, volunteering in your community, working on yourself, maybe learning a new language, starting an initiative. When it comes time to write that application, you're not going to be fumbling, looking for examples, um, making up examples even, or struggling to form a cohesive personality or a cohesive image of how you want to project to somebody that's reading your application. So start early. That does not mean start early before the deadline or start early, but start as early as now or as early as you feel I need to work on myself. I need to take a course on this. I need to read on that. And you really don't need to have money to do that. If you have internet, I always say that's more than enough. So don't wait until it's time to hit that send button to start working on your application. You need to start way before that, years, even months, as early as you can. Ahmed, do you have anything to say about that before we go on?
Actually, yeah, maybe about this part is I always advise any person who talks to me about any scholarships. I always say, like, the most common question I receive about scholarships: do you think I'm ready to apply now? And they list a lot of amazing achievements, actually. And the only thing I always say: you are ready, even before reading anything. Anyone attending today live session, you are 100% ready, because you are already seeking the opportunity. You would never be here today except if you are ready. So more or less, I always believe, yeah, some people, when I say, oh, I got these number of scholarship, oh, he should be very smart. No, I'm totally not. I'm totally not. I think I was just a kind of lucky, but not the name of lucky by the classic definition. The terms of, I know some people, when I very first to start to apply for student scholarship, some people was like, yeah, I have to gain like, you know, that international experience first. I need to be very extremely fluent, like native in English. I need 1, 2, 3, 4. And then they spend their whole life preparing to be ready. And what I did simply, I applied, I tried. Because more or less all the scholarship, they are trying to find the ideal candidate, which, or even for any UN jobs and that kind of things, they are trying to find the ideal candidate, which doesn't exist. They just to get the best applying candidate, let's say. So about starting early, yes, start early. Think early about the scholarship. Get your network. You know people who got the scholarships before. Talk to them. Listen to that kind of live sessions, and then directly apply and try. Because the best practice ever is just to apply and got rejected. Once you got rejected, now you get 1 point and keep counting until you get your scholarship.
Yes, and it doesn't really matter how many rejections you have. It's not a race. You only need one scholarship or one yes. So the scholarship Ahmed got, the Achieving Scholarship, I applied to that scholarship maybe 4 years in a row and I never got it. So had I just applied for this one, I wasn't going to be on this live chat right now. So you need to not only, it doesn't matter if you get rejected from one opportunity, no one's going to ask you if you got rejected from another opportunity. Nobody's keeping tabs on you. If you get rejected from one opportunity, they won't select you for the next. So don't get discouraged, and also don't self-reject. Don't say, I'm not going to get accepted, so I'm not going to apply. Don't be the person to reject yourself. Don't stand in your own way. Sue, I just want to ask you before we go on, are you sure we're properly live? Because I could see, like, I can't see the comments that are showing on LinkedIn on the live stream.
Yeah, there's we've only had one, and it's a question more than a comment. So yeah, I have the live stream up on my phone, and it's streaming. It's got the captions on it, and it's got the one comment. And now someone, welcome Faisal from Nigeria. Let's show his greetings from him. We actually have 20 people watching live, which is great. Nice to know that. So yes, we are streaming. It shouldn't be a problem, and we're streaming on YouTube as well.
All right, awesome. If you have any questions, do keep them coming, as I said, so that Ahmed could answer them sooner rather than later. The next thing is research thoroughly. Now, when I am on the other side of a committee reviewing an application, whether it's a job application or a CV or whatever it is, just by glancing at the application, I can tell if this person has done his or her research or not. And it shows in an interview, it shows in an application, it shows it anywhere. So if you've done your research, you're not going to be saying generic information. You will not copy paste the same scholarship application here and there. Every scholarship is unique. So every scholarship will require different things, or they're looking for a certain X factor, or they're looking for a certain unique thing in the applicants that they want to select. So every scholarship has a style, to put it simply. In order to increase your chances of being selected for a scholarship, you need to research thoroughly to know what the style is. So if they're looking for somebody that has excellent leadership skills, you have to bring that out. If they're looking for somebody that wants to make a difference in the world, you have to bring that out. If they're looking for somebody that has very strong academics, bring that out. If they're looking for somebody, let's say, with good sports background, and you don't have that, then I don't really see the point in applying. So you really need to research thoroughly, because at the end, the scholarship is being funded by a donor or by an entity, and there's never a donor or an entity that just wants to fund everything. Even when you go work later on, if there's a development project, some donors will be interested in agriculture, some donors will be interested in employment, some donors will be interested in small and medium enterprises. So there's never a donor or an investor that's interested in everything. So you need to research thoroughly to understand what this scholarship is about, what these people are looking for. And if you do have these criteria, you need to bring those out. So you need to do your research. Don't just wing it. Don't just copy paste. It will show. So do your research thoroughly. Ahmed, do you have any examples about that? Or can you inspire people by a time you've done your research and it really showed when you were being interviewed or being selected?
Oh, interesting. I think that was kind of surprising. I didn't prepare honestly example, but if I can reflect on that from some personal experiences, it's true, definitely what Roman mentioned about, each scholarship is searching for something. If you just clicked on that bottom, okay, you just got that scholarship. But in practical wise as well, don't restrict yourself. I mean, be open-minded by the meaning of, if your area of interest, let's say, is public health, pure public health, because this is like, my own experience, and then that scholarship is searching for a kind of, I don't know what example to say, but the meaning of even engineering, let's say, you know and you are so into the overall university or the overall program, actually. So public health itself, engineering can be part of public health, if you understand what I mean, all the fields are kind of overlapping. So what Rawan mentioned, when you apply actually for each scholarship, try to make a unique application for this particular scholarship. It means, even if you think, all right, this is not the scholarship I'm searching for, naturally it can be, but you just have to tailor your application to this particular scholarship, just to change the wording that you are using, and be open-minded in terms of, and understand your field research well, in terms of, when you are talking about public health, it's something huge. It includes climate change, so maybe you should apply for something like that. It includes health system, yeah. It includes wash, water and sanitation. It includes World Food Program. I mean, Rowan's background is public health, and she's dentist by educations, and now she's working with the World Food Program. So if you think about it, and someone is thinking, oh, it's not public health, no, actually it is public health. So it's a kind of, when you think about any scholarship, just tailor your application based on that scholarship. So I kind of be open-minded, but at the same time, don't waste your time in some scholarship that you're gonna be 100% not qualified for. As Ramon mentioned, if it's something like, okay, they are searching for someone who's athlete and maybe taking one of Olympic medal, and you're not that person, then it wouldn't work. So just don't waste your time.
Okay, thank you, Ahmed. Um, so moving on, there's something else that, there's two things actually. Ahmed was talking about career shifting. So for example, I shifted my career, and one of the best ways to shift your career is to do a master's degree in something else, because that allows you to move from one space or one field to another. You're no longer relying on your network or just experience, but you're relying on a solid qualification. So if you have made up your mind to shift careers, it's and you're certain that you want to shift careers, it's a great moment to think about getting a master's in that new field you want to leverage to. However, the person that's funding you will need some solid convincing that this is not just, an exploratory phase for you, or you're not just trying something new, or, getting a taste from the buffet and then you'll move on to something else. So in order for you to convince that person that you're serious, you also need to build your CV a bit in that direction. So you can do some volunteer work in your community. You can start freelancing on websites like maybe Fiverr or Upwork in that field that you want to move to. You can start job shadowing. You can start even your own NGO, your own consulting firm. You need to show this person that you're serious in order for them to invest in you, or to incentivize them to invest in you. So getting a master's degree or getting a PhD, whatever it is, or a second bachelor's, a second master's, is a great way to shift careers. But it's often difficult to do that, especially if you have not saved enough money to fund your own studies, or you're not invested enough in your current job to keep going every day, or you're going part-time. So it's very difficult to pay for a second degree or another degree. So if you want a scholarship, you need to be serious to show that person that you're serious. And believe me, it's obvious most of the time. In very few occasions, it's not, or the person manages to somehow put on that facade when they're not serious. But in most cases, a person that's doing scholarship screening has seen so many applications and has met so many applicants that they're able to see through you as well. So make sure that you're telling the truth, but make sure you've also worked on yourself before presenting yourself to a person. The number three is maintain strong academics. I just mentioned that because sometimes when you're applying for a scholarship, they require, especially if it's a master's scholarship or a PhD, sometimes they require recommendations from academics. Sometimes there are scholarships that are for people who have very strong academic backgrounds. That's not the one I was on. The scholarship I was on was for African women or African women who wanted to study STEM or science fields. So if you do have a strong academic background, maybe that could be an edge for you. I didn't. I wasn't the most clever person in university. But if you do have that strong academic background, I would suggest that you leverage on that and you start looking maybe for some scholarships or funding opportunities that are rewarding that kind of merits, like academic merit scholarships. If you don't, that's completely all right. There's other scholarships that are looking for people with leadership qualities, or other scholarships that are looking for people from certain ethnic groups, or other qualities that are looking for people with extracurricular activities or music or sports, whatever it is. So don't put yourself in a box and say, I'm not smart, I'm not going to get a scholarship. It's not true. You can be not academically clever. Of course, you need to have passed your bachelor's degree or to get a master's, or you need to have passed or completed one degree to move on to the next, but you don't necessarily need to be a genius to get a scholarship. That's not true. I'll pass over to Sue and Ahmed in case you want to say anything, and then we can move on.
Yeah, the only thing I would add to this, just because it says maintain strong academics, is remember, once you're out of school, you can demonstrate that you're still keeping up with your field by showing conferences you go to, ways that you're doing continuing education, ways that you're using your experience. For example, maybe you're writing a newsletter or writing on a blog. There are a variety of ways you can continue to show that you're intellectually curious and you're doing your best to keep up with the state of the art in your academics. All right, on to the next page.
All right. So there was just a question in the chat from Dr. Luanza. I'm just going to project it. I can't see it, but let me just show it. So if I'm not mistaken, Dr. Luanza, I think I know your daughter, right? She's the young girl that does the podcasts. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but if that's your daughter, I'm not worried about her at all. I'm not worried about her at all. So I don't, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but if I'm not mistaken, she's a young woman and she interviews others. She has her own podcasts and she's very charismatic, very successful. So maybe I would advise her to document her work so that when it comes time for her to apply for these local scholarships, she has a portfolio to show, but she's definitely in the right path. She's doing all the right things. You can also post her YouTube channel or her podcast channel in the comments for other people to see what I'm talking about. But you can also correct me if that's not your daughter. I think I remember her. She's interviewed me before. So number 4 is
RAWAN,
identify.
I was just going to jump in and say your previous advice is start early. So the advice for this young honors professional and anyone else listening is the best time to start is right now, no matter where you are in your career, if you want to start stacking up those scholarships. I thought that was great advice on your first set of slides.
Yeah, and it's true. It can never be early enough. And you've seen those like really influential female young figures like Malala and the climate activist Greta. So you've seen these people who have started really young, and they've, Malala, for example, has moved on to study in Oxford University, which was ranked at that time as the best university in the world. So you can never start too early. And if you do start early and you build that image, you become inspirational to other women in your community. You become a figure, a leader. So I would say I would advise her to keep going. Maybe she would just she's at that point where she needs to identify what she wants to study, where, and to start looking for opportunities there. But otherwise, I think it's great as well that you're asking on behalf of your daughter. It's difficult to move on in life when you don't have like a supportive network, a supportive parents. So I appreciate you attending and asking on her behalf as well. It shows the type of parent that you are. We need more of those. So number 4 is identify local scholarships. Most people are always looking for international scholarships, but it makes sense, right? Supply and demand. So if you are applying for a local scholarship, you're competing with people within your country um, or within your community. So the competition will be less. So for example, if you're applying for a scholarship, let's say like the Chevening scholarship, they do the selection processes per country. So you're only competing with people, if you're Indian, with other Indians, or if you're Chinese, with other Chinese participants. But if you're applying for a scholarship that I posted a couple of days ago, there's a scholarship in Oxford called, I'm sure I'm going to pronounce this incorrectly, but the Hoffman scholarship, or the what something, I just posted it a few days ago. So this is a scholarship for professionals around the world who want to enter Oxford University. So of course, if you're applying for a scholarship like this, you're competing with people from all around the world. It's a global selection process. So start with identifying those local scholarships. Maybe in very highly populated countries like Egypt, where I come from, it's also very competitive. But if you come from a small country like where I live right now, Namibia, maybe your odds will be quite high to get selected, because not many people will be applying for those scholarships. They might be selecting a higher quota of candidates from these smaller countries to increase the representation. So start by looking for the local scholarships. Of course, still apply for the international ones. Don't self-reject, but look for the local scholarships. In Egypt as well, we have some businessmen or some large organizations that fund students. Like, for example, there's a very important and rich businessman called Sawiris. He has a scholarship in Egypt, so they also fund students to study in different prestigious universities. So dig deep within your country, within your community, look in the newspaper, look on LinkedIn, follow the influencers, and find those opportunities and apply for them. Ahmed, I'll pass on to you over here if you have any advice on that.
No, actually, I think it's the same. What you're saying is definitely right. It's the same. Maybe if I can add something just for the benefit of everyone. I mean, because at the moment I'm part of the teaching staff at Imperial, so I have been involved in assessing some scholarship application actually at Imperial College, and at the moment Imperial is 7th best university worldwide, and surprisingly enough, even for international scholarship, if it seems to be, oh, that's impossible, I will compete internationally, as Rawan mentioned, actually even for international scholarships, sometimes it's not only the academic background, it's not only your CV. Sometimes when they see an application coming from a very small country, that just a very small developing country, that's more attractive for them to consider it more than someone coming from high income country. I heard it from the head of a committee who was just choosing a scholar. He mentioned, he was defending to give the scholarship to some person who is not the best in terms of point system, in terms of assessment, but that person, she was a lady coming from a kind of poor income country according to the World Bank classification, and he was very big advocate for her, despite there are, I think there were like 12 other applicants. They were higher than her in terms of system. The top one was like impressive person. He's matching every single one, every single point in terms of the scholarship thing. And then he was advocate for her because he said all the other candidates, they are good enough to catch other scholarships. This lady and this girl, it will be very hard for her. That will be the chance of her life, so we can change literally her life by choosing her. And it ended up, this girl, she got the scholarship. So even if it seems impossible, it seems international, if it seems, oh, I don't have the best CV worldwide, I will be compete with graduates from Harvard and Cambridge and that kind of thing. Sometimes this, scholarship committee is not thinking that way. So I really like the expression that everyone keeps saying, don't self-reject yourself. That's the biggest mistake you will do for yourself in your whole life.
Yes, guys. So if there's anything you take away, not only for scholarships, really, I even say that for jobs, because I feel, and now I know, as somebody who manages others as well, you can train people. If the person has that initiative and they have that ambition, you can train them to do anything. So if you're trainable and you have that initiative, if you have that drive, if you have that fire, go for it, apply. Other people on the other side of the table, they know maybe you have those skills, or you come from an Ivy League university, but you don't have that fire, you don't have that passion, which you can't give to somebody. So really don't stand in your own way, and maybe somebody, the right person, will be able to see that and take a chance on you as well. We need to go a little faster because we don't have that much time. But number 5 is utilize scholarship search engines. Maybe people in the past used to do that more. Now, I love LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn all the time. A lot of opportunities that I find through LinkedIn. In some countries, like where I'm based right now, a lot of opportunities are advertised in the newspaper. Maybe that's not so common in other countries where there is no newspaper culture. So you know where you're based, and you know, or you can determine how best to find those opportunities. So if you're in a culture that's heavily reliant, let's say maybe in China they don't use Facebook that much, so maybe it's not the best place to search. But in Egypt we do use Facebook a lot. Over here in Namibia, people love the newspaper. So it depends on where you are. Use the right engine to search for those opportunities. There's no one size fits all approach. You need to understand the culture. That's part of being, like, socially intelligent as well, which is a characteristic you will need to apply for a scholarship. So look for the opportunities in the right places and be in the right places to find those opportunities. Number 6 is write a standout essay. There is no formula for the perfect essay. But for me, I would say that however you write it, whichever formula you follow, however you do it, it needs to show who you are. So if it's a very stiff application, if it's rigid, if it's full of jargon, if it doesn't show who you are as a person, it is very unlikely that somebody will be willing to, call you for an interview to learn more. It's like watching a series or watching a movie. You need to leave that person sort of on a cliffhanger or get them intrigued about your story, make them interested, however that looks for you. Some people are good storytellers, some people are more factual, some people have very touching personal stories, others don't. So you need to decide for yourself what will make your essay stand out. There's no one definition or one formula to stand out. Otherwise, that would be oxymoronic, right? If everybody was standing out the same way, no one would stand out. So you need to find out what makes you stand out, what makes you unique, and then bring that forward, spotlight that in your application. Ahmed and Sue, do you have any advice on that? I think that's a really important point.
I definitely have something to say on this because I review these occasionally. Make sure you follow the instructions that they have. Make sure you follow any guidance, and make sure you write, just like when you're looking for a job, write to what the scholarship wants you to achieve, because your goal is, as a scholarship recipient and finishing the scholarship, they want to talk about their alumni being wonderful examples of whatever focus in public health, healthcare, whatever they're funding. So write to that as you write a standout essay and bring your uniqueness. Remember to write to their specific points. So you can apply to multiple scholarships, but just like multiple jobs, each one has a different perspective. So write to the audience that's reading it.
And if I can add something to that, because I think the writing has not been my strongest skill so far, and I'm still the same. I mean, I would say maybe Rawan would be the first time for her to hear that, but there are some people they are really talented in writing. They are really talented, and again, Rawan is first time to her to say Rawan is that person. She is just purely talented in writing. I remember very well, I knew Rawan for many years, and then the very first time to see actually what Rawan is writing was a draft from her master's thesis. She was like, what do you think about that? And she was really upset. Oh, I think, she was saying, I think, oh, this is really bad draft. And then I read it and I was like, wow, if this is bad draft, then I will fail my master. But I'm not that person. I'm not that person. I'm not talented in writing essays. So how did I get all this kind of scholarship in writing essay? So I use like three basic advice I always say I did for myself, for anyone who's not talented like myself in writing. What I did to apply for any essay scholarship, to prepare myself, be ready with three things. I already had three different documents for myself. One document, I conclude every single thing I did in my life in numbers. Just I write it as numbers. How many conferences I attended, how many trainings I attended, how many achievements I got. It's just numbers. 3 times I did 1, 2, 3. That 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's why I keep counting the scholarships. So just to conclude everything you did in your life in numbers, and I will tell you how to use it in an essay. The second advice is write 2 to 3 points as standing out points for you. What I mean, write 3 facts about you that is really, really astonishing. It's just amazing for anyone to say. For example, what I used to write in the Achieving Scholarship, like as an intro point, oh, I was the youngest staff member in the UN Health Program for refugees in Egypt. That kind of thing. When I apply for a scholarship or anything, you should just write something very catchy to tell that person, I'm a serious candidate. Look at my essay, complete it until the end. So write this kind of 2 to 3 points that is standing out point for you, or make it longer. This is the second document you have always to prepare and keep updating. The third point is write 3 to 4 examples from your daily work. 3 to 4 clear examples of something you are proud of. More or less, try to make one example from your practical work about leadership. There is no application for any scholarship, I believe, without asking about your leadership skills. Write one clear example how to show your leadership. Another one I wrote always for networking. The third one is to show that I'm serious in my future career plan, which is something else. It should be a fourth document you prepare. Clear future career plan. By the meaning of clear, I mean very clear. In my Achieving application, I remember when I was writing clearly by date and time and year when exactly I will do the next step. I will do by the year of 2022, I will be in that position. 2026, I will be in that position. So I was very clear, and then showing example that I'm already on track. I'm just not writing that out of the blue. No. I'm in track for that kind of purpose, So write down something to prove for them that I'm serious about my plan, And the fourth and final part, write about some situation you are proud of in terms of overcoming certain challenge. I'm flexible, I'm capable to overcome challenges. I understand I'm not the best, but I can be the best. So just to show them that kind of things. So if you prepare that kind of 3 documents, conclude everything in your life in numbers, 2 to 3 standing out points, and the third thing is some examples that show these kind of things, 3 to 4 examples, and then put all of that together in any application, and you will feel, oh, I can write something personal, as Rawan said, personal and tailored to the application that I'm applying for. You just combine everything and be genuine. Don't use weird words, because I'm not good in maybe in English and using like amazing and fantastic words. It's not me. I write very plain, simple English language. Like, okay, I want to be the scholar. You have to choose me. I said that in the Achieving application. They said, like, literally they were asking me, why should we choose you? And my very first answer, that again, you have to use that in the interview to be brave enough to say it. I said, actually, you need to choose me. It's for your benefit to choose me. And I was like, yeah, sometimes it seems arrogant, but you have to put it in context. You have to have a full answer. But that kind of shocking answer, shocking words, it just caught attention. Because those people have been interviewing people like for the last 2 or 3 hours. These so amazing people. I'm not the best, but I have to shock them. I have to like cardiac shock for them. Like, wake up! You are talking to someone different. I'll talk to you about me. And then like you keep going. So that kind of attitude is a skill you have to learn, and just be prepared. So again, if you prepare these documents, I'm sorry if I talk too much in that point, but because it's very important. If you prepare this document, I always say if you are very well prepared, and also your other documents like just the graduation certificate, IELTS, blah blah blah, I always say, what if I told you there is a good scholarship, but you have to apply today before the end of today of today? You must be ready. You can apply in just one day because you have everything in your mind prepared and you just apply for it. So I hope no one will be disappointed if you are not a good writer like myself. You can always stand out even if you don't have amazing writing skills.
Awesome. And Ahmed, if you can you please share with the audience as well how you compile that document with the numbers? So how do you do that? Do you do that weekly? Do you do it monthly? Do you use an application? Do you use your phone? Can you break it down a bit for people who want to start doing that?
To be honest, I'm very old fashioned person. Like I'm not very good in technology. I think now there are a lot of apps that they do that. But what I do is literally, once I got this similar advice from a person like many years ago, I started to write. Like today, for example, some one of you will listen to it and then got inspired about this point. All right, I will do that today. Then I spent a whole week just concluding everything before in my life. And then what I do, honestly, I'm not restricted by week, months, or anything. When I do anything extra that can add to this number, I immediately, on the same day, I update it. On the same day, literally, I just update it. Because if you think about it, you are not actually doing achievements every single day in your life. Maybe you will get one event or one standout point in your career every 2 or 3 months. So if you actually set every week to add this point, maybe you are actually adding a kind of useless point, because if you are adding more numbers every single week, that's weird. That's not the type of points I want you to consider. The type of points I want to consider is something really significant in your career. And actually, I would advise even for people who are searching for jobs to do the same in their CVs. So I have my personal main CV that I never share to anyone. I have a huge CV, like 18 pages. It has every single thing I did in my life. But then when I share the CV for any job or something, it's 1 to 2 pages. So I pick what is relevant. But literally, if I didn't update that huge CV, I wouldn't remember anything when I apply for any job. So that just, don't exhaust your memory and your mind. Just update everything, have your background document. And something funny, I don't do it. I do all these documents all offline on Word, which is something so stupid. So my wife keeps telling me, like, you have to upload all of these things like in an online drive or something, because if my computer is crashed, I'm dead. Like I don't exist. I have no idea what to write. So just to try to keep it in a safe place, I have it in too many, USBs. It's quite messy when you keep drafting, and then you will find actually that folder in mine, like draft and then a date, and it's too many documents, because I never delete the previous one just in case something crashed. So I think, yeah, the updates, just do it regular, make it as a habit. And by time, actually, even if you listed too many points and too many numbers, by time you will realize, all right, now I'm in the stage that this point will not be very significant. And maybe I saw Rawan before posting something about it on LinkedIn, and I really liked it, in terms of when we start our, our first scholarship application or anything. If you saw it, you will find a lot of volunteering activities, a lot of it. Like, I volunteered as academic member staff in 123, something very local, because this is the biggest achievement I did so far. And then don't feel disappointed, because that can get you the first step. But later on, once your achievements starting to build up, you will find that kind of volunteering thing, or the simple small thing, you don't have really to mention, because you have bigger thing to show up with. So just to start with the minimum, don't feel disappointed. This is the very first step for you. So just do it, and it's the same for jobs as well. I never differentiated and feel significant difference between a scholarship application and job application. It's all the same concept. So just, yeah, try to do your best.
Awesome. So I learned a lot from that as well about documentation. Sometimes I use LinkedIn as well to update when I do a new course, or when I want to add something in my life. I would also just warn you, be careful when writing a scholarship application to write things that are not necessarily not true, but don't use, like, I don't know what to call them, like theatrical credentials. Like, for example, if you do a 1 hour course on MIT learning, Don't say I'm an MIT graduate, because you lose credibility to the person that's reading that application. So, yes, be confident. Yes, sell yourself, but also be mindful to not share false information or misleading information, because that could easily make the reader lose um, lose that that credibility when it comes to reviewing your application. Some more tips before we go. Like, if you have questions, feel free to add them. We don't have that much time left. I would just say some more generic tips. You need to have letters of recommendation for any application. Most job applications require that. Most scholarship applications require recommenders as well, because as humans, we believe, like, it's hard to believe somebody's speaking about themselves. We need that other voice, or that other leader, or that other voice saying, yes, this, they can attest, they can verify what you're saying. So you will need to have strong letters of recommendation. By strong, it doesn't need to be the biggest person in the organization, but somebody that has a strong relationship with you, that can speak about you well. So don't go to the dean of your university if they know nothing about you. They can't speak about you. They can't say something special to convince that person. Yes, letters of recommendation are very important. People do background checks. Remember, scholarships cost the government, or they cost the donor thousands of dollars. So they need to make sure that they're giving this to somebody who deserves it, somebody that wants to make a difference, somebody that is keen about their future. So have a strong relationship, I would say, with 3 to 5 people in your network that you can call, even if it's a short notice, and they can help vouch for you. That's very, very important. Often that's not something you could do at the last second. It takes time, months, years, weeks to build a strong relationship with somebody. So don't leave networking until the last second. You need to network way before you actually need to tap into that network. So have strong letters of recommendation, have strong recommenders. It's not always easy, but it's something that you need. So don't keep to yourself. You will need somebody to vouch for you sooner or later. So make sure you have that baseline, or you have that network that you can tap into. Ahmed and Sue, I'll pass over to you if you want to add anything before we finish the last few points.
I think we can keep going maybe until we finish the main slide, just to leave chance for general comments and questions.
Okay, so there's some like generic tips, like applying for numerous scholarships. We covered that. Please don't apply just for one, even if you were very sure. Try to apply for more than one scholarship. I would say at least 3. So try to identify maybe the scholarship of your dreams. If you want to apply for scholarships like big ones, the famous one like Chevening, if you come from a Commonwealth country, there's also the Commonwealth scholarships. There's Fulbright scholarships if you want to study in the US. So you can apply for those big ones, but dig deeper. And let's say if you're really keen to attend a certain university, then maybe apply for scholarships within that university. Try to apply for, I would say, at least 3. If you have the bandwidth to apply for more while still keeping that level of applications high, for me, the quality is way more important than the quantity. But at least try to have 3 so you give yourself a safety net. Another tip over here is that you can defer. Sometimes a lot of universities, especially in the UK, allow you to defer offers of acceptance. So let's say I got accepted in 2023 to a university, but I don't have the money to fund it. I can tell them, please defer my acceptance to 2024. And in that year, I can zoom in only on applying for scholarships. I know a few people that have done that, and it served them well, because now their attention is not divided between like applying for a course and applying for scholarships. So if you feel it's going to be way too much for you, maybe apply this year. Let's say for the universities, try to apply for scholarships. If you're getting offers of acceptance, don't just let them go. Write back to the university and tell them you want to defer your acceptance. Most universities will let you do that. Not all of them, of course, but most universities will let you do that. So if you want to do that, make sure that you have that option in your back pocket.
I think if I can add a kind of just, if you allow me to add a practical example to that, because this is, I think, very important point. Yeah, I always try to highlight to anyone ask, what I would recommend. As Rawan mentioned, don't apply for one scholarship. I would really encourage you apply for as many as possible. What I mean, again, when we mentioned be real about your future career plan. So if in your future plan in general as a person, you decided this year, this particular year, let's say 2025, I will be studying my master in international university. That's a solid point for me in my career. I, you know, I will not give up in that year. So what I did for myself, I was deciding in 2017, I will get international scholarship to study my master of public health out of Egypt. That was like an end point for me. I will do it. So in 2016, I think I applied overall for too many scholarship. I can't remember how many, like too many scholarship everywhere worldwide. Because again, the master degree might be the entry point for you to go everywhere. Don't strict in mind, oh, the country that I will do my master in, it will be the country of my life. No, that's not true. So I decided to apply to every single scholarship I can meet for master of public health in international university that I like, again. And then I ended up clearly, and as I said, I wasn't the best, I was just applying. I ended up with 3 different scholarship offers in the same year in 2017. So I got offer from Achieving, I got offer from a scholarship in Germany, and I got another offer from a scholarship in Finland. And then I was comparing between the 3 because it ends up right. I applied for too many, I got rejected in some, and I got accepted in some. And just to highlight 2 important points from these even 3 offers in that specific year, don't forget that you can mix up some scholarships. This is very important as well. So the scholarship I got in Finland, it was in Tampere University. They were covering tuition fees, but no living expenses. And I'm not ashamed to say, okay, I'm coming from a background of poor to middle income family, so I can't afford actually living abroad without money. I can't afford that. So what I did, I went to an organization, and as Rawan mentioned, dig deeper into your local community. You will find something. So I went to one of a kind of NGO that is opened by one of the huge businessmen in Egypt. And then when I went there, I told him, like, I have that offer, tuition fees is covered, I need living expenses, I need 14,000 euros. That's clearly what I said. And then I was like, oh, that's weird. Sometimes we provide, but not that amount of money, and we don't have the opening now for the scholarship. I said, like, I really need it, and that kind of thing. If you can allow me actually to speak to someone higher in position or responsible, maybe I can convince them. Clearly, I swear I just said it. And then they got me into the office of some senior, because the secretary outside, I was talking to her like with really enthusiasm. I was literally traveling from Alexandria to Egypt just to meet, to go and get a try in this. And then when I got into it, that's why it links to my very first point. Each scholarship qualify to a second. Once I get into the office to that senior person, I went there and I was just starting to talk, and she was looking at me in a weird way. Like, I don't know why she's looking at me in that way. And then eventually she stopped me and she said, like, I was telling her my name is Ahmed al-Buqsumati. And because this is the official surname for me, but everyone is knowing me Ahmed Nagib. And she was like, your name is not al-Buqsumati, I think your name is different. I was like, I have 7 names. And I told her, like, some people know me as Ahmed Nagib, but I don't think you know. And she said, oh, you are the one who won it was Fame Lab competition. It was another competition I won and I got a scholarship from. She said, like, you are the one who won that scholarship like 2 years ago. I was in the final of this kind of competition when you presented. I can't remember her, but I said, like, yeah, I won that competition. And then, oh yeah, I know you are a really good person and that kind of thing. And I spent time speaking to her, and then she offered, I will talk to the committee, blah blah blah, and eventually they offered me full funded for that 14,000 for my living expenses. And after they offered me that, I ended up declining all the offer because I got accepted in Achieving to go for Achieving. So what I mean, like, just do your efforts, and eventually Allah will just guide you through some way. Okay, you will got many offers. So apply for every single scholarships, and even within the scholarship, consider Plan B, C, D, and E. I'm sorry if I'm talking again a lot, but this is very important. For example, for achieving scholarship, because the application currently is open, the application for the scholarship is different from university, right? So you apply for the scholarship as different thing, and then you have to get an offer from a university in the UK. So when I applied for in the UK, in my year, I applied for 11 universities, 11 different universities. I got offered from 10, and I got rejected in one, right? And I remember very well, I'm not ashamed to say it, I emailed that university, and when you have a kind of, why did you reject me? I felt upset. Like, why do you reject me as a university? So I emailed even that university after that, and I sent them literally attaching my 10 acceptance letter from 10 universities saying, like, tell me the rationale. Why did you reject me? That was something not nice I did. Honestly, I'm not proud of. I shouldn't do that. But it's still what I mean. It's just apply for as many as possible. And just to highlight, don't underestimate yourself. Among these universities that accepted me, it was Cambridge and Oxford. And I didn't never imagine that these two universities would accept me. I was so into Imperial College, which is still among the top 10. But I mean, I thought, oh, Oxford and Cambridge, oh, that's impossible. They will not accept me. That's why I never put them in my achieving application. And I ended up, okay, I can't go for them because I didn't mention them. I mentioned only Imperial. So don't underestimate yourself. Just apply for as scholarship as possible, and you will get the best chance for yourself. And eventually you can actually decline some scholarship. Surprisingly enough, you will be able to decline some scholarships if you have better opportunities.
I've never declined one yet, but I'll let you guys know when the day comes. So to wrap up, we're going to be staying for 10 more minutes just to wrap up. There's two questions that I received yesterday. I put them in the slides, but a few more secrets or a few more tips, and then we'll go through some don'ts and answer the two questions we received. If you still have a question, you can type it in the chat, and we'll try to get through it quickly. The few more secrets, we mentioned them right now, so please show your personality.
Rawan, before you go, I just wanted to check. Ahmed, you need to jump off in 1 or 2 minutes, right?
Officially, yes, but if it's only 10 minutes, I can run because I have a hospital shift, yeah. So I can run like 3:15 UK time. So I have.
Okay, all right, then I'll let you and Rawan manage it. I just wanted to thank you for the very valuable perspectives, and I'm going to summarize the comments you gave on how to assemble those documents. And my recommendation for you, tell your wife she's right. You got to do it online, and I'll show people a model of how you can do it.
Perfect, thank you.
Ahmed, another thing is if you don't want to use Google Drive, I email things to myself. So in case my computer crashes, I write. So yeah, if you want to do things the old-fashioned way, just email yourself.
Hopefully you can remember the title of the email because I forgot how to search for it.
But yeah, in short, like more secrets, please show your personality. Don't shy away. If you have extracurricular activities, show those too. And for interviews, make sure you really prepare for the interviews as well. Other things is avoid scams. If something looks like it's too good to be true, it most likely is. I've never paid for a scholarship application. Yes, some universities have an application fee. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a fee to apply for a scholarship. I have not seen that yet. So avoid scholarship scams. If somebody's asking you to pay to apply for a scholarship, big red flag. If a university requires a fee to apply, maybe consider another university. Lots of universities don't require application fees, especially that these. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so sorry to interrupt. Just to add to this point, because Imperial College and other universities started actually to ask for application fees, and I can guarantee you 100% based on personal experience and now being the teaching staff, if you are coming from low and middle income country and you email the course coordinator saying like, I'm coming from this low and middle income country, I don't have enough financial resource to pay that tuition for our application fees, they will definitely 100% they will waive it for you. It's a kind of college policy inside the UK and I think in other universities. So just don't ignore the strengths of emailing someone.
Yes, don't and also don't push yourself too hard. At the end, you're a student who's applying for funding. I remember there was a top university that I wanted to go to when I was younger, and the application fee was about, I think, 150 US dollars. And at the time, that was my whole salary. And I remember I saved and I paid my whole salary for a month to apply for a university, and I never got accepted. It was a risk, a leap of faith. It shows how much I believed in myself. But I would also say that's not clever, especially if you have other obligations in your life or somebody relying on you. So do use other techniques that are more sensible, like emailing that university and asking if they can waive that application fee, looking for maybe other sources where you can fund things like an application fee. Like, for example, the route Ahmed mentioned of going up to an NGO as part of their corporate social responsibility. Maybe you can ask them to help you fund something like your TOEFL or your IELTS or an application fee, especially if you're asking for a small amount of money. Maybe it's small to an organization like an NGO or a corporate, which is $100 US, but it may be massive to you, especially if you're earning in local currency. So you can look for non-traditional ways. You can start knocking on doors, but don't do anything ridiculous like trying to push your way past security. We're not saying that. Be sensible, but also be bold, be courageous, believe in yourself. Keep records. Ahmed mentioned that. Sue's going to also tell you how to do it, and be persistent. If there's anything that we missed, you can mention them in the chat. Some don'ts. Don't lie. Don't be fake. Don't submit your own recommendations by making fake email addresses. You're going to get caught. Don't wait until the last second. Don't postpone documents like your transcripts or your IELTS. And don't only apply for, Ahmed mentioned, for example, that he got accepted to Cambridge and to Oxford, but he didn't mention that in his application. So don't, restrict yourself to either super high top ranked universities or middle universities or low universities. If you're applying for a scholarship that allows you to apply for more than one university, I would say put your top dream highest ranking university as your number one. Your two should be something middle ranged where you feel comfortable that you'll get accepted. And three should be a safety net, not your dream university, not somewhere ideally where you want to go, but somewhere you feel very safe, where they have a very high acceptance rate. So diversify. Don't limit yourself to a certain category to cast a wider net. I think that's it for the main slides. There's a question from Nancy. I don't really understand it. How we can find funding for a scholarship? A scholarship is funding, Nancy. So it is the same thing. So you don't need to fund the scholarship. The scholarship funds you. It funds your studies. So that's what we're talking about today. How to look for these scholarships, however way you choose, depending on where you live, depending on where you want to study. So for some Q&A, there's two questions that I received yesterday. I'll say them quickly. So somebody asked, how do I know if a university is accredited? So to me, I don't really care. Nobody has ever asked me almost where I studied or which university. It matters a lot less than you think. So yes, if you want to get into academia and become a professor or become a researcher, it will matter. People will care, but more often than not, people are not really too fussed about where you studied, as long as the university is accredited. So there is a website of higher education. I think it's run by UNESCO, which is the United Nations Agency for Science and Education. So this is the website, whed.net. So search for any university just to make sure that it's accredited, especially if you want to work in a large organization like the UN, just to make sure that this course is accredited. So this was one question. It's pretty straightforward. Just go to that website and search for the university. The other question I got was, I'll leave that to you, Ahmed, and then Sue can wrap up. The other question was, how can I get a scholarship mid-course? So a young man was asking yesterday. He's studying in a European country. I don't remember. I think it was Belgium. And he's in his last year or last 2 years of getting an aviation degree, and he has become orphaned. And he needs about like 10 to 15,000 US dollars, but he's towards the end of his course. So how can he get a scholarship now? If you have any ideas, maybe you can answer that question, and then we can wrap up.
Yeah, sure. So I think for that kind of question, as you mentioned, it's a quite tricky one, because it's. But I would say, even, and I already gave example of it. It's exceptional circumstances need exceptional actions. So you are not in a regular situation. This is definitely exceptional, but sometimes this exceptional thing is a strength point for you. So what I mean is, now you have to be the person who is creating the scholarship. It's not the opposite. You will not find a clear scholarship for that kind of things. It's quite rare to find. So what I used to do, literally just put in a suit, literally a classic suit, and then I go to the capital of the country where I am. I used to go to Cairo because I'm based in Alexandria, and then literally I pick some organization, like big known organization, like networking company, Mobinil, Etisalat, that kind of things, or huge NGOs. And as Rowan mentioned, every single organization of those, they have a specific fund. They are obligated to give it to the community. 100%. Every single organization. They don't do it for charity, they just do it for tax, but they have that amount of money. So what you have to do, literally approach them, and believe me, they will accept it more than you can imagine. So as I mentioned, the example for this 14,000 euros, and in Egypt this is a really huge number, and I got this scholarship from nothing. There was no even opening for that scholarship, and I went there. I told them my story and 1, 2, 3, and that's it. And just by the way, that was not my very first organization to enter. I'm not that lucky. So I entered 4 or 5 other organizations, literally as simple as I go to the security at the door of the company. I swear I do that. Like going to the security, telling the story, my name is blah, blah, blah. I graduated from blah, blah, blah. And I used to have a lot of certificate because Egypt likes certificate, printed one. This is all my certificate. I got this scholarship in Finland, and I need that amount of money. I'm telling that to the security man downstairs, and he's like, okay, I don't know what to answer. I'll put you to the reception. And then the reception, I repeat the story. And then the reception, oh, that's quite interesting. I'll put you up to whoever. And I keep up, up, up until, okay, I reach end point in certain company. All right, that company is off. I go to the next. You have to do efforts and you will find it. So that example I did, it was in 2016, again, because I started my master in 2017. So that was in 2016. And then I did it again in Harvard, as I said. So I got a scholarship for short course from Harvard. It was, I think, 10,000 USD to attend that course, So I applied for it, and I got a scholarship from Harvard to cover the tuition fees. And then the course was either to be conducted in the main campus of Harvard in the US, or actually in their global health center in Dubai, in Emirates. And I chose, because I have some friends in Dubai, I chose to go to Dubai. But then I didn't have enough financial resources even for the flights. So what I did, I literally emailed Emirates Airline, telling them the same story I used to tell. Like, I got that scholarship in Dubai, and I don't have enough financial resources to secure my flight ticket, and I'm asking if there is any kind of support. And they give me 75% discount. I paid, I think, equivalent to £50, 50 Great Britain pounds, I think, for direct flight from London to Dubai. And surprising enough, people saying like, oh, Emirates Airline, I think if you breathe more in the flight, they will charge you. But eventually they accept that. Even I'm not ashamed that, you remember when I told you about the Tampere University thing? I swear. So the lady was like, after she told me, all right, the committee, she called me and the committee accepted that kind of funding that will be given to me, and she invited me just to do a kind of presentation, just to wrap up a kind of presentation, just to get that fund. And I went there, and then they were saying a kind of normal question at the end, like nice question, like, do you need anything else from us? And what I said, I was like, I don't have a laptop, and I think everyone in the university gonna have a laptop, so if you can give me a laptop, that would be great. And then everyone started to laugh because they thought I'm joking. And someone was like, oh, do you need it Apple or any laptop? And I was like, I'll prefer Apple if there is. And they started to feel, oh, I'm talking serious. And then one of the committee members said, like, you are quite brave. I'll give you what you need. So they were offering a laptop just out of the blue. I said, I need a laptop. So as long as you are enthusiastic, again, just go for it. So for that person, even if you are not, you are in exceptional circumstances, and you approach it, local NGOs, even international NGOs, telling your story, that 1, 2, 3, I want to complete my education, believe me, you will find some chances. Just do your part, do your efforts, and you will find some chance. It's not easy, I can't promise it will happen, but eventually it will, and it will come forward. So I'm sorry if I have really to run now, just to catch my hospital chef. But it was really, really my pleasure to be with you, and hopefully we can keep in touch. I think my LinkedIn is already there. Feel free to drop me any message, and apologize in advance if I got late in replying. But thank you so much, Sue. Thank you so much, Rowan, and hopefully we're gonna catch up
Bye.
soon.
Thank
And
you so
thank
much.
you, Ahmed. This was a
Thank you.
great, lively discussion. You contributed a lot to a body of knowledge that isn't well written down. So you'll help us help everybody else. All
Thank you.
right.
Thank you so
Good
much.
luck.
Thank you. Have a lovely evening. Bye.
Yeah. Bye. Rawan, do you want to answer this question from Cyan, or you want me to?
Yes. I can just say what I know, so and you can feel free to add on. I was gonna say it completely depends. So most universities, if you come from a country where English is not the national language or not the main language, then so for example in Ethiopia you speak Amharic, so they will require you to do either the IELTS or the TOEFL. um, I studied in Egypt. I was studying in English. I still have to do the IELTS. So it depends. Check the university website. You can email them and ask. But I would say if you're comfortable doing the exam, you will need it. So instead of going through the same process with every scholarship, the IELTS, I believe, expires, the academic IELTS expires after 2 years. So I would do it. Save money for it and do it and keep that certificate for those 2 years where you're applying for scholarships because it's a key document. Over to you, Sue.
Thanks. I get a similar question a lot when I work with people, either primarily through the course I have on professional presence. Here's what I want people to understand. Sometimes the application readers don't necessarily think about your country and what the situation might be. So Rawan's right. Do your homework and figure out if you need us to take one of those two tests and make sure that you comply with that. Also, remember that the first thing they're going to see about you is your application. So just like everything else you'll do in life, make sure it represents your best writing, get help with it, have someone proofread it. Even me at my advanced stage, I try to do my best proofreading or have someone else look at things because we don't see it. For those of you who want to understand how to approach languages, let me give you a simple formula. The way in which you describe language is professionally proficient, meaning because there's three parts to, for example, English: speaking it, writing it, reading it. So if you're being asked to demonstrate that for a job, you need to say, yes, I can work in this language. So don't just say I speak English. But Rawan referred to this. Many countries have an official language, and then you have your native language. So you may be native in one or more. I know there's countries with 5 or 25 languages of different areas, but the government may choose a working language. You may go to school. For example, in South Asia, I know pretty well, a lot of the schools start English from very beginning. So they were basically, when you get into school, you're basically native at that point. And I tell people, if the language of instruction, if the language of your government is English, you can use those words also in your application to amplify that. On top of that, then you begin to describe how and in what way you've used it. So make sure when you apply for an MPH, some of your evidence, part of your personal essay, make sure resume, long CV, short CV, whatever they're asking for, includes the way that you've written things. Have you written a thesis? Have you written reports? Some of you come with work experience. So the way in which you can demonstrate writing skills also makes a difference. All right, that's it for me. I see more questions coming in. Some people have been joining, so I'm assuming that timing shift is now making more people come online, which is great. But we are going to have to close. So Rawan, I'd ask you to make your final remarks and then I'll close. And those of you who don't have, there are two of you, Fatima and Titus, put some questions in. Rawan and I will try to answer them in the comments after we finish.
All right. Thank you, Sue. And thank you to Ahmed for joining us today and giving his great tips. In summary, I would say that if you want a great scholarship, then you have to have prepared greatly. Don't self reject. And if you have extraordinary circumstances, that means you need to step it up and put in that extraordinary effort to really stand out. Don't let anything get in your way. I remember when I was first applying for a scholarship, when I was applying for a scholarship for my bachelor's, although eventually I did my bachelor's in Egypt nationally, I didn't have a computer. So I used to go to the Ahmed East, which is a center where you do the TOEFLs and the English exams. And there was an extra computer in the building that they let me use to type in my essays and stuff because we didn't have a computer at home back then. That was like 2008. So really don't let anybody stand in your way. Don't stand in your own way as well. Go to a cyber cafe, use whatever you can, apply, and people will be able to see through that effort. And the right opportunity is seeking you just as you are seeking that opportunity. So just be inspired, be motivated. We're just like you. We're both Ahmed and I are basic, you know, I would say students who just tried a bit harder, and we got the opportunities that we got because of that. So just be inspired, be perseverant, and know that that opportunity is waiting for you.
That's great. And for Titus, I should have mentioned, if you missed the first part of this, as soon as we end the live stream, you'll be able to go back on LinkedIn or on YouTube and watch the replay. Ahmed actually addressed, and so did Rawan, chances of getting a scholarship, how to increase your chances. There was a long discussion towards the middle of it. So go towards about 25 minutes in, and you'll be able to see a lot of that advice. We did talk, Fatima, about how to write a good essay. That sounds like a letter of intent. You may find also there's a lot that we discussed on that. Most of it was Ahmed and Rawan with occasional chiming in from me. Thank you. This was a very lively Ask Rawan Anything, and stay tuned for November and we'll have another lively topic and probably start finding more and more guests to bring into. Thanks very much, everybody, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.